Hey, welcome. For those of you that are already here, welcome. For those of you that are just joining us on the replay, we are so glad that you're here. Welcome to Remarkable TV Live. I know we do this on Blab, and if you've never been on Blab, welcome to Blab. And if you've not been on Blab and you're wondering what those little hands are down at the bottom, those are a way for you to give me feedback. So if I'm doing something that you like, if you just tap your screen with your mouse, or if it's on a tablet, just tap it, or on your phone, just tap it, then little numbers, just like that, that's exactly what will happen. And so that's how that works. So here's what, if this is the first time that you joined us, here is our process. Every Monday, how do you record a Blab? Well, let me get to that, Greg, in just a second. I'll answer that question for a second. So our process is that every Monday, I release a new post on our website. And for the last several weeks, later in the week, we come back and take a deeper dive into that topic. You can see the title of that here is the difference between a group think and team think. That's what we're going to talk about today. We take a deeper dive into the post from Monday, and Marissa, maybe we'll click that. We'll put that there. So Greg, if you want to know how to record a Blab, when you start your Blab, you have a little, at least they continue to change the way it works, but the way it works as of right now, on my left on the screen, I see a little red line, little red box that says start recording. I can pause the recording, but to end, as far as I know, I still just have to close the window. That's how you start. So you can be live and off the record, not have it being recorded. But once you click that record button, then you are recording, which is exactly what we're now doing. And so, again, we're going to take a deeper dive into the topic from Monday, the difference between group think and team think. And then this will become a post on the blog, put out typically on Thursday. That's the way we're working. Now, the other thing is we call this RTV Live or Remarkable TV Live, but there is such a thing as RTV already, or Remarkable TV already, and that comes out on my blog every Tuesday. In fact, it just came out a little bit earlier today. Today I'm talking there about vulnerability, shot from a different place in our actual studio as opposed to in my office where we are now. So let's dive in. So I had this idea. I've certainly known about groupthink for a long time and did some research in relationship to the background of it and sort of where it came from. It came from a book in the early 1970s, 72, I think, from a gentleman named Irving Janis, who is a Yale psychologist. And here's the thing. He defined groupthink, and a lot of the study was done from the Cuban Missile Crisis and some other things like that. So the initial work was done from sort of the political or the large-scale sorts of things. And let me just share with you his definition. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why it is that I decided to write about this at all and give you some background there. But here's part of Janis's definition. He said, I use the term groupthink as a quick and easy way to refer to the mode of thinking that persons engage in when concurrence seeking becomes so dominant in a cohesive group that it tends to override realistic appraisal of alternative courses of action. And I bet we've all seen that. People don't want to disagree. They want to get it over with, or they just want to, let's just agree to agreement. That sounds fine. No one wants to really explore any options. We got groupthink. Janis went on to say a little later, he said, the main principle of groupthink, which I offer in the spirit of Parkinson's law, is this: the more amiability and esprit de corps there is among the members of the policy-making in-group, the greater the danger that independent critical thinking will be replaced by groupthink, which is likely to result in irrational and dehumanizing actions directed against outgroups. Now, that last phrase doesn't necessarily play into the work that we all do in an organizational setting, but certainly the rest of it matters. We don't want this, right? We want this idea of the cohesion and the esprit de corps and the amiability. That's all positive, nothing wrong with any of that. But what we don't want is the lack of independent critical thinking. What we don't want is no one sort of wanting to rock the boat. What we don't want is people not wanting to really explore other options because the way we're going seems to make sense. Now, I know that groupthink isn't the same as the mob mentality, but I have to tell you that as I was writing this originally, I was thinking a lot about that. I remember when I was in college and I was what they would now call a residence like an RA, a residence advisor, and there was a big snowball fight across the street between our dorm and some other housing units at Purdue, and it was a mob mentality. Like everyone was doing stuff that that no one would probably have done alone, but in the safety of the group, they did it. But the reality is, it's sort of like groupthink in that we're not really considering anything else. We're just sort of going along. It's not exactly the same, but I hope you get the idea. We don't want groupthink. Now, the whole idea came up for me to even think about this idea of groupthink and what we would really want instead. Takes place from a couple of weeks ago when my whole team, if you don't know, my team is not all here at Remarkable House. Many of them are spread out around Indiana and even around the country. And a couple of weeks ago, we were actually together for a couple of days. We had a facilitator with us, and I certainly observed, and the team certainly observed their interaction with each other. I got some feedback from the facilitator afterwards about the way that the team interacted, that there is a high level of esprit de corps, to use Janice's words. And yet, there was plenty of opportunities and plenty of willingness for people to say, I'm not sure about that, or what about this, or to take a little bit different stand. And so since it's pretty clear from Janice's definitions that we don't want groupthink, the question might be, what do we want? And I think what we want is teamthink. And so here's my definition of teamthink. And I'll read what I wrote in the post. It says, teamthink is the collaborative thinking that comes from people who care about each other and their goal enough to listen carefully, consider options, and make the best decision for themselves and those they serve. Now, I was further thinking about this definition this morning as I sat in downtown Indianapolis at an event called Pancakes and Politics, I think it was called. And they were talking, and it was put on by the Indy Chamber of Commerce, they're talking about sort of the legislative agenda for the Indiana General Assembly in early 2016. But I was thinking about this whole idea of do we care enough about each other and about the goal to listen carefully, consider options, and then make the best decision for ourselves and those we serve. That, I think, is what we do want. Now, the challenge with all of this is that part of the groupthink thing we do want, as I already said, like we want the esprit de corps, we just don't want that at all cost. So I think there are three things that we need to make sure we have, and specifically one thing we need to make sure that we do to come closer to having teamthink. Because here's what's going to happen. Without intentional, effective, self-aware leaders, you are very likely to get groupthink. Now, you certainly can have a team that doesn't get to groupthink because they're not amicable enough. There's not enough esprit de corps, and people sort of spout off whatever they got. That's not really what you want either. There's, again, some good starting points with groupthink. I think there's three things we need to do, and as leaders, we need to make sure that we're doing those three things to make sure we get what we want. First of those is we need a goal to galvanize everyone. We want to galvanize the team or the group toward something of greater value. What's the goal? What's our purpose? What's our mission? I don't care what words you use here. What's your greater why? There's got to be something that gets people focused on that. And once people are focused on that, we got a chance for people to say, wait, this is important enough for me to raise my hand. This is important enough for me to push back. This is important enough for me to say, wait just one cotton picking minute. So that is the first thing we need. We need a goal to galvanize us. Listen, that doesn't happen automatically. That happens when a leader makes that happen. So we can be that as the official leader or in a volunteer group. Someone has to say, so why are we really here? We got to galvanize the group with a goal. The second thing we've got to do is we've got to have the relationships to bond us together. Remember, my definition says it's the collaborative thinking that comes from people who care enough about each other and the goal. The relationships do matter. Now, in groupthink, if you read Janice's definition or you listen to what I said, you might have that high level of amiability and esprit de corps, but there's not necessarily that overarching goal, and so we need to make sure that we have both. Now, as leaders, we need to make sure that we're taking the time, investing the time, creating opportunities for the team to create those relationships enough for us to make this work. Now, the third thing that you really have to have, that I don't believe exists when groupthink exists, is the trust that will create safety. Because at the end of the day, it's safety that is what we need. People need to feel safe enough to raise their hand. They need to feel safe enough to create a little controversy. They need to be safe enough to create a little conflict, or even to insert a little resistance, to push back a little bit. They've got to be able to say, wait a minute, what about this idea? Have we really considered all of our alternatives yet? And risk others on the team rolling their eyes and saying, oh my gosh, I thought we were almost done. So there needs to be safety that can come from those relationships and the trust that comes there. But at the end of the day, it's the leader that needs to make sure that that safety net is being built, and needs to be maintaining it, and needs to be nurturing it, and certainly needs to be the first one that's making it safe. You can't be the one rolling your eyes. You can't be the one saying, wait a minute, we're not going to worry about that. We got to move on and make a decision. It's all about a balance, of course. The point here is that just the goal and the relationships, as important as they are not enough alone. We need the trust that creates the safety net in order to really get where we want to go. And if we really want to have a team, and we want to have a team thinking. See, here's the thing. If we're all thinking the same way, we don't need a team. We need someone to just go decide. If we're already in violent agreement, if we're all reading from the same hymnal, singing from the same song sheet, have I got enough cliches in there for you? See, the reason we have those cliches is we've experienced all that. If that's all we've got, we don't need to bring everybody together. Someone decide. We need a team so we get independent critical thinking. We need a team so we get the various perspectives that come from the different parts of the business, from the different experiences, from the different interactions with customers, whatever that is. We need a team to create the best solutions, not only for us, but for our constituents, for our shareholders, for our customers. And so it really, what we need is team think. And at the crux of this idea, the difference between groupthink and team think, it is the existence of the trust that allows for the safety for people to say, wait a minute. And as leaders, if we will work to create that, we are making a significant impact for the individuals on the team and for the team as a whole, as well as the results that we get. I encourage you to make this your focus, to make this your challenge, to make this your goal to create more team think in your organization. If you do that, you're on your way to becoming a more remarkable leader. And perhaps that's why we call this Remarkable TV. Hey, thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. So glad that you did. If you enjoyed it, leave me a note. But also, if you enjoyed it, make sure that you come back next week when we do this again. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day, and make your focus to create team think, not just group think. Thanks, everybody.